forget is the whole purpose of running these grants is for those applicants, whoever they might be. So really their experience should be the top priority, which does come into play with that whole operational side of things. But really we need to focus on their experience. So what can we do to make their experience better? Um, Applicants, when they're going through this grant process, it's gonna be really stressful. A lot of the time, the process they're going through is not super efficient. It's not easy. It's not intuitive. And then, no matter what it is, what grant they're applying for, it's going to affect their future in a large way or a small way. No matter what it might be, it's going to affect them, and that just adds a whole nother level of stress. So that's kind of where reviewer comes into play. Is we want to make the process for your applicants as smooth as possible.
All right, so here are some things that we have been seeing here at Reviewer from your grantee or applicant perspective. So what we see a lot of is a lot of manual processes. So we're using a lot of Jot forms, Google Forms, lots of different email submissions, lots of PDFs. And the issue with this is just that it takes a lot of time for you as admin, and then it also leaves a lot of room for error. So, as you're running through your programs, people are submitting things in different places. People are getting lost in spam filters. You, on your end, are having to put a lot of work in to gather all of these different materials that are coming from different places and put them together, downloading things into spreadsheets. And we have been seeing that negatively affect the applicants just because of purely fairness. We want the people who are applying to have the best chance of getting these funds or these grants that you're offering. And if we have people getting lost in spam filters and emails, or their applications not even necessarily being considered, or not being able to put their best application forward because of all of these different barriers that we have, then that can be a real struggle for the applicants.
Yeah, so with that, a reviewer, we kind of try and combat some of those issues. So as Kelly explained earlier, something like getting applications, a lot of times there's a different way. So you're going to fill out one form and then you need to email this admin these file uploads or mail it or all of these other things that can be a real issue if they get lost in the mail, they don't get submitted, spam filters. Applying in 4 different places is not efficient for anyone, whether you're the admin or you're the applicant. That again adds another level of stress, and we're trying to make this the best experience possible. So with that, a reviewer, we have these profiles. So every time you go in to make an application through a reviewer, you're going to create an account. If you already have one, you get to log back in and that is just added. So every time you build a new account, so say you have 4 grants you're applying for, you make one account, you're going to log back in and continue to use that. What's really nice about that, whether it's all for your grants that you're running or for different events, everything, all of their information is saved. So it's super secure. They have everything they need and it's all in one place. With that, that's kind of the same thing. All uploads, eligibility screening, everything is going to be in one place. So tapping back on that eligibility pre-screening, again, efficiency. We want it to be efficient for you as an admin and also for your applicants. So we don't want them to waste your time by going through an entire application that they're not eligible for, and they don't want to waste their time going through all of that work for something that they aren't even going to receive. So reviewer, we have eligibility pre-screening. If they don't qualify, they're done with the form. Similar to that is a smart funding matching. So say that you are offering 10 grants and you fill out this pre-questionnaire of just some basic information about you, what you're applying for, and then based on your responses there, you're shown what you qualify, and then you can choose from there what grants you actually want to apply for. So again, not wasting time with Scott or with grants that you are not applying for, but just showing exactly what they can and choosing from there. Automated document collection, again, kind of touched on this earlier, but where everything, all documents, uploads, that can all be brought into one place. Another thing with that submitter portal is that all of their attachments, documents that they upload is going to be right there in their account. Template-based budgets, so just having everything kind of be in one place, standardized formats for easier comparison and evaluation. That's going to be so that when they come time for their submission to be evaluated, to be judged by those people who are picking out who receives the grants, it's going to be more fair. No matter how good your experience is as you're applying for these grants, if it's not being scored fairly of who's going to receive it, then that's also super frustrating. With that, also the admin side of things, when everything is all in one place, when your applicants have profiles pre-built, again, the pre-screening, the eligibility, all of these features just make your job as an admin way easier while also making the applicant experience better. Things like this are kind of how we just talk about how every user and reviewer, whether that's the admin, the applicant, the reviewer, they all tie together and they all work together to make the best experience. Another thing just to kind of talk about with grants specifically, obviously we use Reviewer for all different kinds of programs, but grants specifically, if you have a follow-up, how did you use this grant? How did it affect you? How did it benefit you? We can do grant follow-ups, grants acceptance with supplemental forms, which is something super unique to Reviewer where we can invite them to add a guest attachment, someone who else maybe was affected by that grant, or they can be followed up individually, go back in, either accept that grant or log back in and get access to that form where they write down how that really did affect them. With that, I am going to go ahead and steal that screen share from you, Callie, and I'm going to show you just kind of the submitter experience. So what it looks like for them as they're applying for grants. And then I'm going to hop over to their submitter portal so I can kind of put a face to the name of what that is. So where they can see the submitter portal. So every submission they've submitted for your grant, for other grants, kind of show that. And then the admin dashboard. So where it comes into your guys' play where you see everyone who has submitted those grants. Perfect. So opening up here, this is going to be where your submitters go to submit your grants. So this is going to be to create the profile page. If they don't have an account, they're going to create an account here, and then that's going to save for them. Down here, this is kind of the eligibility criteria that we talked about, and then also the grant selection. So based on what they answered previously, these are the grants that they can apply for. This is the eligibility. Scroll down as they fill that out. And then these are what actually appears. So that auto-populate, that pulled from their responses on that previous page, and that shows what they applied for. And then here's some of the applicant information. So as we fill this out, we use special fields in the form, and that's going to stick to their account. So they know their first name, last name, email, their title, things like that. And then also appears that save and log out button, which is super, super helpful for reviewer because it's different than other forms where you can save and log out in the middle of a form and everything is going to be saved. We also have a feature where if you just click the next button, as you move forward, that whole entire page is going to resave as you move through the form. So even if you forget to click save and log out, you X out, you time out, your previous page is all going to be saved. And then just kind of more information, the grant request, supporting documents. This is another really big ticket item is where they get to upload these items and they're safe, they're secure, and it's all in one place. No need to have to email the admin and submit that separately. And then the letter of reference that I kind of talked about earlier. So for grants, this can be for an acceptance or for a follow-up, but this is going to be specifically for letter of reference. So if you have to have a letter of reference as you're applying for that grant, this is actually going to invite an outside user into reviewer and allow them to just open up, write their reference, submit it, and then it's all going to be there. You can find this all under that applicant's portal. And that's about it for the submitter side. So then say that they click save and log out, they submit and they want to go back and view that submission. They're going to log back into my.reviewer.com and this is where they're going to be taken. So this is their submitter portal. All submissions, if they log into the microsite that they applied for, all submissions they've submitted to that specific event is going to show here. You can see for the supplemental event what status they're in. So if they sent it to this one recommender, they can see the status if it's completed, if it's ready, and then the status of their own. They also can be taken to their submission. Give that a second to load. We'll see if it'll load. If not, we can just kind of move through that. What's that? Yep, there it is. So it's going to show you their submission they submitted. They can edit, they can view it, and then they also have the opportunity to add another submission. So up here is where they can see those supplemental forms. So they can see who they invited to be their recommendations. If they've been evaluated, they can see those if enabled. Same with attachments. Any attachments that were uploaded through this process are going to show here. Over here, questions and comments made by reviewers can also be visible there, again, if enabled. And then the last thing that I want to show you that kind of has to do with this is your admin dashboard. So as you're bringing in these grant applications, you can see how many applications have been submitted, the status of each of them, also your supplemental forms. So you can see how many have been invited, how many have been completed. So it's just a really nice place here where you can kind of see a broad version, but there's also a page over here called the Manage Submissions page. And here's where you can see all submissions that have been submitted through your event. So all submissions are going to be your status, their organization, whatever fields you have here to populate in are going to show. Super helpful just to kind of see everything here if you need to get in depth. And then also as submissions are coming in, this is a good way to kind of keep checking in. You can view all submissions, click into them, edit them, whatever you need to do. You can see submitters, attachments tab. It's kind of the same view as what was on that submitter portal page right up here. Yep, and then admins just have a few more views, but kind of the same idea. With that being said, Callie, I'll give you that screen back and then we can move on to the next.
All right, really quickly before we move on here, I just wanted to address a couple of questions in the chat. It looks like we have a grantee here, which is awesome for that perspective. And then we had a question about AI. So right now, Reviewer does currently have a couple AI features, and then we have a couple new AI features that are going to be launching soon. So at the end of this call, we can get you set up with somebody from our team who could go over some of those features with you and then kind of give you a fit to see how your program might work in with those. And then we had another question about login difficulties. I will let Hallie take that one.
Yeah, so part of my job being here on the customer success team is we have a chat. So admin, reviewers, and your applicants have access to the chat. So whether you're having problems logging in, problems within the actual form, we're here to help every step of the way. So that little chat icon down at the bottom, any grantees can come in, ask for help if they're having login issues, create account issues, and we will help them out with that.
All right, perfect. So now that we have talked a little bit about the admin perspective and then also the applicant perspective, one thing I really wanted to touch on today was the review and selection process, and that would be your judges or your reviewers. So those are your people that are coming in and reviewing your different applications. So those are typically people in your organization, or those might also be volunteers that you have, people you have set up, kind of giving you a little bit of their time to evaluate these. So some of the things we have been seeing when it comes to that perspective is we have been seeing a lot of Excel sheets. So typically what we see is you have your applications, you then send them off to your judges. They take their time, evaluate them. They have them in all different Google Docs or forms or things like Word, and then they either send all of those to you and you have to put them into an Excel spreadsheet, or they try to put them in the Excel spreadsheet and then they're sending them over to you. They may be emailing those over, some may even be printing them out and giving them to you manually. And some of the issues that we're seeing with this process is one, that is a big lift on your reviewers. So a lot of these people are just volunteering their time, or like this is not a main piece of their job, like they're just giving you the little bit of time that they may have. They might be doing it solely volunteer, doing it after hours, after work type of thing, just to help out where they can. So we want to make that process as simple as possible. So it doesn't only take up the volunteer's time, but it also typically what we've seen here at Reviewer is the hourly rate for those evaluators is around $34 an hour. Now, if you have those evaluators evaluating 100 submissions, that's about $695 per reviewer. So it's not only the time that is being taken, it also comes to the dollar amount too. And that is why we feel that streamlining the process for them is really important because it affects your applicants directly. When your reviewers are happy and happy when they're evaluating, they are going to evaluate your grantees to the best of their ability.
Yeah, with that, this is kind of another good way to tie in where admin, again, the operational side of things only makes up a third of it. And reviewers, they are going to be your volunteers. They're going to be your work buddies that are donating their time to you. So keeping them happy is also going to directly affect your applicant experience, kind of as Callie said. Something that we kind of like to touch on is the manual assignments. So picking and choosing who's going to review who, taking up your time as an admin, and then also trying to make that fair. You need to make sure that things are non-biased. Everyone has kind of a fair amount of who is reviewing the amount of what. So with that, we have auto assignments, so we can set up minimum and maximum amount of reviews for each reviewer. And then we also can do some redaction. So whether that be your submitters' names, any files within the form, anything that might make the reviewer's opinion more biased if they happen to know the person, or they have anything that you just don't want them to see. If you want it to be completely cut and dry, only what they need to be reviewing. With that also comes your volunteer fatigue. If you're reviewing 50 submissions, by your 50th submission, you are not going to be as nice a reviewer as you were on your first submission. So that kind of brings back in the minimum and maximum, but also it kind of brings in the fairness side of things. So if I'm a really tough scorer and Callie is a really nice scorer, you're going to want Callie to score all of your applications and not me. But that's just kind of not how things go sometimes. It's the luck of the draw. So with that, we have normalization reporting, which ties straight into the review process, where it's going to affect your reviewers and your applicants. So you're going to take it's a spreadsheet, it's an equation that uses the scores that I give each submission I score, the scores that Callie gives out, the submissions that she scores, it averages it out. It takes all of them and then it averages them all the submissions so that it makes it super fair. So with your tough scores and your easy scores, it's going to take the average of what submission truly got the best score across all playing fields. Um, with that, I think that I am going to show you the reviewer experience. So we're going to show how we make it super easy for reviewers. It's super easy. They log in, they create an account, and all of their submissions are right there within a click of a button. And then also, I am going to show you as an admin how you can kind of utilize making the reviewer's experience even better and make your experience better in the long run by separating out some of those submissions. I'm going to go over here. So this is going to be your reviewer experience. So first, you're going to after you've made all assignments, you're going to invite a reviewer. This is what they're going to receive, a link in their email. They're going to click it. They're going to set a password. And then here's where all their submissions are going to be. Everything that they have to do is going to be it's going to be there when they log in. To evaluate a submission, they're going to click edit. And then on the left, you have your submission form that they're scoring. And then on the right, you have your scorecard. So this is going to be where they score everything. Everything is super intuitive right next to each other. It'll total up at the bottom to show what they're scoring. Click submit. Everything's good there. With that, and they also have kind of the same features at the top where they have the supplemental forms. They have the attachments they can click into there, but they also can view attachments within that form. Down here, again, the rest of the submissions, they can see if they've started their scores, what scores they've given everyone, and just kind of keep an eye on everything. That is it for the reviewer side of things, but then I'm going to hop over back here for just a minute and I'm going to show you kind of the admin side of things. As I'm pulling this up, something else that we like to know, just to try and keep things as fair as possible for those applicants, is we're trying to stray away from the number scoring. So instead of doing it, please rate this essay question on a 1 to 20. We're going to do a 1 through 5 emotional experience, whether it is exceptional or below average, because that just also kind of evens the playing field. And even if you don't run that normalization report, you're going to have a more even response based on someone's emotions as opposed to a number. My version of 17 out of 20 might be way different than Callie's version of 17 out of 20. Now that this is pulled up, the groups and divisions. So this is going to be how we kind of bucket submissions. So say that you're running a grant program where they have the opportunity to apply for 7 different grants. We're going to make a different group for each grant, and then we can also set up auto grouping. So as soon as they click submit, click save, past that option where they select what they're applying for, they're going to automatically be put in a group, which saves you a step down the road. So down here, groups, and then it shows what the group name is down here, and then what all your submissions are in here, and then your review staff, and then you can manage the assignments by selecting the submissions and reviewers that you want to assign to each other. And this can be done by the auto assign, which sets the minimum and maximum. You can manually assign it so you can match up who you want to assign to who, or you can assign all, so where all submissions are going to be assigned, be reviewed by all judges. And that is it for that kind of side of things. Callie, I'll give it back to you.
All right, we're moving right along. Okay, this is the last piece that I really wanted to touch on during this webinar, just from a marketing perspective, and that is impact tracking. So at the end of the day, you put all this work in, you run this grant program, you award the grant or grants if you have more than one. And then at the end of the day, somebody is going to come along, whether it's somebody in your organization, it's a boss, it's a shareholder, it's somebody on your board, whoever it may be, and they are going to ask, like, did this program have the impact we intended it to? Did it do well? How did it impact the people who received these grants? And then also looking at year to year, how does this year compare to last year? How many applications did we receive versus last year? So that is where having the data to back up all of this work that you and your reviewers have put in is really going to be important. Oftentimes, after programs, we see grant makers wanting things like testimonials or follow-ups from these people that are receiving these grants, so they can show the impact that these programs are truly having. Because we understand here at Reviewer how important these grants really are to the people that are receiving them. Your organization understands how important they are, and we want that to be shown to everybody when this program is all said and done. So with that being said, I'll let Hallie take over on this one.
Yeah, so with that, Reviewer has a really, really good reporting system. So we have a whole page kind of dedicated to different reports you can pull based on the submissions. If you have to report what were the quality of our submissions this year as compared to last year. We're working on AI reports from that, kind of how that is affecting your submissions. Also, with your grants, especially a lot of follow-ups. How did this grant affect you? That's a really good way that we can report back to those people who need to know how much is this grant really affecting each of these grantees and what can we do to better that? With that, those applicant profiles that we build, all their information is in there and it's going to be super helpful to report things based on kind of how their process went. A lot of just really, really good reports. Again, the normalization report, things that can really feedback and give you the feedback to give to your shareholders, your board members, your boss, to show that this is making an impact and kind of show and base how you can make things better for the next year. And the other thing I will also just note is that this isn't going to be a manual thing where you have to go into an Excel sheet and make all these functions and figure out for yourself how this really did affect these grantees, how well you did this year, how many submissions. You have access to all that through Reviewer. It's so much less of a manual process because you have access to so many reports right off the bat.
All right, so to give you just a quick overview here, what we talked about today was kind of just the manual processes that we have been seeing as we're going along. And we know the true impact that that is having on your applicants. We understand here at Reviewer that you guys are just this is most likely a very small portion of your job, and your responsibilities at your organization. So we know it's really important that this is a super easy process for you. And the easier it is for you and the easier it is for your reviewers, the best program gets put forward for these applicants and these people receiving the grants. And at the end of the day, that's who we're really trying to look out for. So I'll let Hallie give any insight she has to finish up.
Yeah, I think after seeing all different perspectives from admin to applicant to reviewer, it kind of shows how they all run hand in hand and how really each different user type seriously affects the other one, and how good each experience is, whether it is for the admin's experience or the reviewer's experience or the applicant's experience, which again, at the end of the day is the most important. Who does have that best experience is the applicant. Um, I think that it's just kind of a good way. Everything reviewer has everything kind of in one place. The applicant saving it all just kind of ties together, making everything super easy and at one centralized location, which is where a lot of that ease is going to come from.
All right, so with that all being said, I just wanted to let you guys know we understand that some of you are just on this webinar for a little bit of information. Some of you may be looking for solutions or a tool like Reviewer. So after this webinar, we will send you a follow-up email with a recording. So if you need to go back through and look at some of the stuff that Hallie was showing you, maybe in a slower version, you can slow it down, get a good look. We'll have that available, and then we will also have a link to book a chat with somebody from our team. So if you want to get on and kind of hear about how a reviewer can maybe work for your specific programs you have, or maybe some advanced features we may have as you're trying to implement your programs, you will have the opportunity to set that up as well. So with that being said, we are now going to open the floor for some questions. We have the chat. You guys have already used it a little bit, but just feel free to drop any of the questions that you have into the chat, and we will do our best to answer those for you.
We do not yet have an AI detector on narrative questions, but I know that that is something that is in the works, and we are kind of getting started as that is something that has become a more prominent issue as we are taking applications, no matter what they might be. Gavin, to answer your question, we can save attachments to the applicant's profile. The only kind of issue with that, with the banking information, is that that might change for the applicants, and also just a security issue. While it is super secure, everything in Reviewer is secure. No one has access to it unless you are an admin or a reviewer assigned to that. And then also the submitters. It's just kind of a personal, whether how you want to run your event, whether you want to keep those in there or not. We can keep it kind of in that applicant portal, but that's definitely up to you. And Kelly, if you want to head back to those impacts tracking. Yeah, I can go over those a little bit. Yep. Yes, so automated milestone reporting. So we can do that either through email, we can do that through follow-up acceptance, follow-up, just kind of letting you know how things worked there. Early warning signs. So flagging at-risk grantees based on the report indicators. So whether who needs it more, those are just kind of questions that we can put into the form, having them answer kind of maybe their financial situation or what you consider at risk, who's more high priority. Capacity building workflows automatically connect struggling grantees to technical assistance. So that's kind of what we touched on with the reviewer, this side of things. So our little intercom chat Me and then the other members of the customer success team, we're in that chat from 8 to 5 Central Time, Monday through Friday. So again, we are able to help all submitters who come in who need help throughout the process. And then that's also kind of another thing. It's not AI detection, but they think it is an AI bot. So we can see people coming in trying to get the bot to answer questions. Comprehensive outcome reporting. So that's kind of like the reports page on that admin dashboard that has all of the reporting for kind of how your event went down. And then multi-year impact tracking. Those are kind of what the follow-up events, follow-up emails of how did these things go. You can build that into your event where people have to fill out kind of how things went. Um, if that answered your question on some of the impact tracking.
All right. Any other questions you guys have, feel free to drop them in the chat. Oh, there's a question about pricing. So in terms of pricing, we have your standard annual fee, and that is for the licensing of using Reviewer. And then on top of that, we don't charge per reviewer or person that you put in there to judge, but we do charge per application. Yeah, we can get pricing is available if you at the end of this webinar, we'll send out a follow-up, and there you'll be able to book like a 15-minute chat with somebody from our team, and they can get you everything you need to know about pricing in that meeting, depending on kind of what you're looking at and what your program looks like.
As there's not probably an exact number that we can give out, but I would say probably around, definitely not as large scale as some of the other forms, but we're definitely in a larger number. But it's also nice that we kind of have a smaller team and are able to make things a lot more personable.
Yes, and we also don't just service grants here at Reviewer. We also do scholarships, we do award programs, we do contests. So our clients kind of have a bigger range because we do stuff outside of just grants. Also, just to piggyback off of that, if you do purchase the reviewer license, and say somebody else in your organization is running a scholarship program or an employee awards program, they are also able to run that through reviewer without having to repurchase it again for them. All right, do we have any other questions? Oh.
Yes, I sure can. So let me open up really quickly. I can steal that screen. Okay, so if an applicant is, so you're going to give out a microsite link is what we call it. So this is going to be your microsite link that you'll share out. And then this is what they're going to see. This is called your microsite. You can put description and rules, and then they can either create an account or log in based on whether they have a reviewer account or not. So this is where they'll be taken, and then they'll start their application and then be taken to your actual submission form. And then say they log out, submit, anything like that, and they want to come back in and view it, then they'll be taken to this applicant portal. So this is going to be their submission page, so they can be taken here where they can edit their submission, add another submission, whatever that might be. They also have access to all their supplemental forms, evaluations that they're done, attachments, kind of some personal information. And then also there's this instructions page giving them instructions to find that submission, keep track of their supplemental forms as well as their submission summary, and then see all submissions listed within that one event if they came through your microsite. So they'll have a submission portal for each event that they apply for. Yeah, so if once a grant is approved, typically what we see is we have your main event is going to be your actual grant application, and then your supplemental event is going to be a grant acceptance or grant agreements in your case. So what we'll do there is instead of inviting, kind of how I showed you with the inviting a recommender, you're going to invite yourself in a way. So once they've been accepted, they will get access to that supplemental event, and it'll be like a whole nother submission form where they can go in and fill all that out. With that, we have emails that are set up to be sent automatically, manually, kind of however you decide to run that. Totally up to you guys. We also have an option if you don't want to do the supplemental forms event, we can add an extra page into your original event, and we can allow only selected users who have been approved for that grant to go back in and submit there. So there's a couple different ways that we can do that, but there are definitely a lot of ways we can kind of do that for you. We do that with a lot of our grants, scholarships, pretty much no matter what program you're using, we have a good handful of each of those who use a system kind of like that. For the means to being sent out, we do send a lot of emails through reviewers, so we can set up automatic emails, and we also can send emails based on submission status, groups, anything like that, where there's a lot of search filters, email filters that we can use to only send emails to the specific users we want. So there's definitely a lot of ways that we can do that for you. We do have, I know that DocuSign is kind of a different party. We can always link that into your form somewhere, but we also have signature components within our forms that we can put in there. Otherwise, we can always link into that DocuSign. We can do uploads I know that once you do sign a DocuSign, you can download that form, you can upload that in there. So there's also quite a few ways that we can work around the DocuSign integration.
Really quickly here, I'm going to drop a link in the chat. That is a link to book a meeting with somebody from our team, so they can give you more of an in-depth demo walkthrough if that's what you need. Anyone on this call, or if you just have some more follow-up questions, you want some pricing, stuff like that, they can give you answer pretty much any question you have and give you specifics on what your program might look like in reviewer if you have just some special things within your program. All right. Any more questions?
Yeah. Thank you for your good questions, Jenny.
All right, looks like we're trailing off here. So if you guys don't have any more questions, we'll be following up soon. So thank you guys for attending today.
Thank you.